Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Life and Literature. My name's Emily and today I'm going to be doing a book review of the Song of Achilles. This by Madeline Miller. If this is something you'd be interested in, then please keep on watching. Greece in the age of heroes, awkward young prince Patroclus has been exiled to the court of King Peleus. Despite their differences, Peleus' golden boy Achilles befriends the shamed prince. As they grow up into young men, their bond blossoms into something deeper. Despite the displeasure of Achilles' mother, the sea goddess Thetis, but when word comes that Helen of Sparta has been kidnapped, Achilles must go to war in distant Troy and fulfill his destiny. Torn between love and fear of losing his friend, Patroclus goes with him. So I've definitely butchered their names. I understand that. I mean, I do not have a very good accent when it comes to Greek names or any names that are a bit hard. I'm also awful remembering names. So every time I read them, it's like I've never read them before. I know Achilles, obviously, because Achilles has been in quite a few different kind of Greek mythology tellings on film, TV, shows, everything. Whereas obviously some of these other kind of Greek names I haven't seen as much, so I haven't had as much knowledge of their names. So I'm very sorry if I do mispronounce some of the names. I may even dub in the official saying of their names because it might get to the point where I am not coherent, so I do apologise. But this follows the story of Achilles and how his influence on the main character, which is Patroclus, I think it's Patroclus. Achilles and Patroclus. So you hear it from Patroclus's point of view, and you find out pretty early on he definitely has an infatuation with Achilles. He's this great grand man that every time he walks into the room he kind of demands attention. Everyone's looking, everyone watches his kind of every move. He is very kind of soft on his feet, very beautiful, and just this kind of epitome of heartthrob that you can imagine that in any kind of form the Greeks absolutely adored. He was a son of Thetis. He was a son of Thetis, who is a sea goddess, so he does have some kind of abilities. He's quite fast and quick on his feet, and overall he just seems like a very chill, nice guy. And when Patroclus gets the opportunity, he very much takes it with both hands and spends as much time as he can, and actually ends up becoming Achilles' right hand man, which is quite surprising to Achilles' father, who has never really had anyone have that much influence in Achilles' life. Now, Patroclus is from a very dark past. He was very much not loved by his father. He wasn't exactly who he wanted as a son, and then very sadly people and kids used to bully him, and in doing so one day he pushed back and sadly killed the boy, which meant that he got banished, and he got banished to Achilles' father, King Peleus. He has a lot of kind of outlaws, a lot of rejects, a lot of kind of orphan boys, because he reformed them. He made them fighters, and that meant that he had a fighting army and people were indebted to him because of his attitude, his desire to kind of have this. Was also some of kind of kindness to these boys, which should have gone on to do God knows what, be God knows where. So he kind of created a bit of a haven for them, and even in doing so though, Patroclus was just not happy. He's not where he wants to be. He doesn't want to be anywhere really, and he felt very much kind of they're definitely on the outskirts. He didn't feel like he was part of of anyone, of any family, and they were kind of friends and everything like that. He didn't really fit in, and he started to hide in broom closets and different kind of nooks and corners so that he didn't have to participate in the fighting, because he really didn't want to be a fighter. It goes on into more the darkness and the deepness of their friendship building, and I thought it was really lovely how kind of naturally it blossomed. You were kind of shown how the years and how the time has passed and how they see and look at each other more and more. I really loved that kind of dedication to letting them grow as characters, that it wasn't immediate infatuation and love. It was, he had this kind of sense and feeling about Achilles, and then he slowly kind of ushers more and more to want to spend time with him and be with him. And I thought that was really sweet, because when you're young you don't always know that you're infatuated or in love, so he definitely didn't know, and he kind of gets more and more attached, and you kind of see it building, which is very sweet. And then I think when they have their turning moment, because Thetis hates him, and you don't really get to see why. Mainly it's explained that she hates all humans, anyone that is not of kind of god energy or descendant. She despises them, and you think this is fully why. I think later on you kind of see more. I think she had more of a premonition about how things were going to turn out, and the influence that Patroclus was going to have on Achilles, that she didn't want that to happen. Now they have a war where they have to attend, just as their love is blossoming, and in true fashion they have to go on and fight. They don't want to, and it's very much intended they're not going to. However, in the dark of night, Achilles disappears, and he is gone and taken by his mother with no explanation at all. Now poor Patroclus, he feels at loss, and he just goes on searching for him, and he ends up finding him in a place he never thought, dressed as a woman dancing. So that was quite an interesting plot. I quite like that. It took me a bit off guard, and then to find out not only that, but then Achilles is married to one of the women, who was the daughter of the king of that particular land, and this was all in an attempt to stop Achilles being in love with Patroclus, which was very sad, and obviously very influential of the mother, and very understanding of the times. I feel like it would have been a lot darker. Maybe the Greeks weren't as bad as like the 1900s or 1800s, but definitely they seemed a bit more understanding. You think in the probably 1800s you would have probably been beaten up to death and then killed, kind of thing, for being in love with a man, whereas it was kind of like understood but not something you continue past a certain age, which was quite interesting. It makes me want to read more about that to see if that is actually a true concept or if it was just for the book. Evidently I don't know my Greek history as much as I would like to, but they kind of get to a situation where they're going to leave. It's very confusing to me, because Patroclus sleeps with in turn Achilles' wife without Achilles knowing. They never actually ever explain that to him or tell him, and that was quite weird to understand that he would do that. I understand there's kind of curiosity, but he always came across more as the one that was like head over heels deeply in love with him. So that was quite interesting. And then you follow Achilles in his journey of wanting to be this hero. He finds out he'll die in the process, but he doesn't care, because he wants overall life victory of being that hero. And that was really sad, really sad. You find out he's going to have a child with the woman he's married, because he slept with her and she got pregnant. He wants nothing to do with the child. He doesn't care. His mum wants everything to do with the child, and he's kind of just very chill with that, which is quite surprising, because you think he wouldn't want his mum's influence, but he feels like it will be a deterrent in his life. they go off to war, they're there for years. I can't imagine that kind of pain, but you can just tell how happy Patroclus is with the fact that he's with him for so long, and every year is a gift, every month and day. He really loves the fact that he's getting all this time, and you can then tell the distaste with the men and the people and how they start to kind of hate him for it, and they know that he's trying to bide his time because he knows once one person, a particular person, dies, it will be down to him. Now, it felt like it went on for a couple of chapters during this time, and you can feel that Patroclus is pulling back and Achilles is becoming a bit more of an arrogant character. I actually started to dislike him towards the end. He was getting really on my nerves, and I felt like he was getting really arrogant, self-absorbed, and in the end he does make the sacrifice that he needs to make, but only once. Sadly, Patroclus dies, and it's so hard and upsetting. And then when you're hearing him talking as he's watching almost from his corpse is really really distressing for me. Like, it took me a lot to keep reading, because that's probably one of like my biggest no's I can't in books, things like that. Like, I understand death happens, I understand it gets explained in books, but him talking as he's viewing the scene, the situation, he's literally in his mental, spiritual body is in his decomposing body, is just too much. It felt very graphic for the kind of book that I thought I'd be reading from this. I'd seen so many reviews and people hyping this book. I didn't read too much about it, so I didn't get any premonitions or anything ruined. And I kind of feel like I would have wished a little bit more of a warning for them kind of scenes, because I really wasn't expecting it. And then when Achilles passes and they bury him, they bury them as one, but Achilles' son makes an appearance and he demands that it only has Achilles' name, because Patroclus is almost a darken on his greatness for Achilles, and that's really upsetting because Achilles really loved him, and you really feel that in the last couple of pages. He had a massive redemption, in my opinion. Still not enough, I think, to kind of fully let go, because Patroclus went through so much at that end that he kind of deserved a bit more of a better ending. But the fact they went out seemingly together and passed together in the same kind of resting place, and then it was quite sweet seeing how Thetis was going to the grave and showing her respects, and her and Patroclus start to share their experiences and love and admiration for Achilles, and it gets him through the time. He's bound there as he's not been allowed to rest, as he's not been put in a marked grave. And again, that interests me if that is kind of a premonition of Greek mythology, of their kind of belief systems. Obviously things have changed over centuries, and it'd be quite interesting to see what they kind of saw. So that kind of be a mention about being in a marked grave so that he could be finally at peace is interesting, whether that was just spiritually or if that is of some merit of what they used to do. If any of that you do know, by all means put in the comments down below. I should do some more research before I give my full book reviews, but I kind of like going in with not some knowledge, because I like to learn as I go, because if I learn it a certain way, which is fundamentally fact from history, but then a book wants to go a slightly different direction with it, I feel like you can sometimes hold on to that fact and feel like it's not staying true, which takes away from the whole reading experience, in my opinion. So I try not to hold on to too many facts when I'm reading, especially during different time periods, because I think that can take away from the overall enjoyment. And sometimes you need to kind of escape, and it's going to be a certain different variation of maybe history, because at the end of the day, if every single book had to be historically accurate if it's in a certain time period, then we might not have as many variations and as many beautiful stories as we do. But if you do know any of them for definite, please put in the comments down below. I'd love to find out and see what you thought about this book. I really enjoyed it. I really would recommend it. I think it was a really good read. It's very emotional and hard-hitting, and I think if you're in a bit of a dark place, then maybe don't read this, but I think if you've got the mental strength, then it's definitely a book that needs to be on your shelf. I did really enjoy it, so I hope you enjoyed my review. If you did, hit the like button down below, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.